his huge frame into the back seat. "What's happening, Red?" Tank said. "I thought you was having trouble, but I see you sure don't need our help. At least you shouldn't want it." The men in the car laughed as Red started up the motor. They talked as Eldorado Red drove back to town. By the time they reached the city limits, Tank knew as much about the robberies as anyone else in the car. For the first time, Vera had finally gotten some idea as to the scope. Of the robbery. Drove to his ranch house and parked in the driveway. Vera raised her eyebrow. "This? I just thought you wanted me to drive out to the airport with you, honey," she stated in a soft voice as she got out of the car and took Red's arm. He led the way up to the porch. "I did, Vera, but that was before I found out how I felt about you. It may sound silly since I just met you."
Hey, yes. This is Astro Conversation. Woo, yes. Man.
But that's the way it is. I mean it. I've never met a woman before who I wanted to have beside me all the time, but they say there's a first time for everything. Eldorado made the statement quietly, and she could feel the sincerity in his words, but words were not necessary because Vera felt the same thing. For the first time in quite a while, she had met a man whom she really wanted to be with. To go back to her alone.
Okay, so this is Astro Conversations. I want to talk about a serious subject today, which is called mental abuse, which is a part of narcissistic abuse today. So the disclaimer is I may get loud, I may, curse and carry on and things like that. I just do things the way I do things. So if you're not about that, don't listen. But today I want to talk about mental abuse. Now, for anybody out there who is currently going through mental abuse or you've went through it in the past, like I know, that it's not physical, it's more spiritual. And every time the mental abuser says verbal things to you or disrespects you in a manner that it embarrasses you, that degrades you, that puts you in a state where it's hard to fight, that is what I call a spiritual affliction. A spiritual affliction to me is something that leaves long-lasting effects on the spiritual. That's not physical. And it's hard to heal because you can't detect it like you can a physical scar, because it's mainly an emotional scar that is left behind by the abuser, who has basically planned a path for you. And they want you to work within their restrictions. And, you may find yourself coming across these abusers because at first they're very charismatic. They're very charming. They're everything that you look for in a partner. And they don't show that side to you. Okay? And they blame you for not being able to see beyond the veil. And they blame you for not being able to detect their true colors. And as a result, they become abusive. And the person at first who appeared to be calm, cool, and collected has turned around and has turned into Jack a Heckle and Mr. Hyde. And behind closed doors, they're another person. They're the partner that insults you and curses you out and puts you into a state because they became so upset that they almost want you to beg them for forgiveness for something that they've done to you. So when you're dealing with a narcissist who is a mental abuser, these people feel like the abuse is needed in a relationship because it's romantic. Okay? And it involves a person getting to the point where they've been frightened, they're under control and they're under shame and, they're being isolated from people while enduring things like emotional, spiritual, and financial abuse that dictates the victim to the point that it makes it hard for the victim to escape. So when you're dealing with a person who's a mental abuser, they're a narcissist who works on the mental, psychological level that's constructed in a way that is going to give them attention more than you. Because, they want to stand by you, but they want to tell you how worthless you are during their standby. And they will emotionally abuse you to the point where it can become physical. And if you're not aware of the process, it can be hard to identify at first because, once again, they don't leave physical marks where people can see. They leave spiritual afflictions on your soul where it's hard for people to see what's going on the outside when on the inside is tearing you down. And the reason why is because people who are mental abusers, they like to play like what I call reverse psychology, where they like to turn the tables and things that they've done that caused the result. They like to turn it and say that it's your fault why it happened. Okay, so things that they've done is why we are left with this. And, I went through the houses earlier today with someone and I was breaking it down and I was like, because this is an astrology channel and I was saying, we have our first house, where it's our parents, you know what I mean? That's our ego, that's where we're dropping and popping it. And then we have our second house, which, our ego gives us the luxuries of our second house. And then, we have that Taurus there that can be kind of greedy. And then we have our third house, which is lessons and learnings. And then we have our fourth house, which is family. And then, that's your baby mama, baby daddy house. You know what I'm saying? The round the way. And then we got with the fifth house where we had all these kids from our baby daddy and baby mama house. And then now they in our fifth house. And we got it going on. And we got child support. And we got drama and all this. And then we got our sixth house where we worried about babysitting because we at the job in our sixth house. And we don't give a fuck. We fucking people at the job in our sixth house. And then we got our seventh house where we married, but we fucking people at the job in our sixth house and we just don't give a fuck. And then we have our eighth house where, that's all the secrets and everything going to jump out on that ass and we don't keep it real. And then we got our ninth house and we got our 10th house and we got our 11th house of friends. And then we got our 12th house where it's the house of unconsciousness undoing. And if we wasn't dropping it and popping it, if we wasn't paying attention, if we wasn't conscious, shit could come out in our 12th house, which is our Pisces house, and that's spiritual. And that's where we're dealing with mental abuse. Where if you're dealing with a narcissist who is a mental abuser, this person can make you anxious. It can make you doubt your confidence. It can make you even feel inadequate to the point where they feel like they're the ones who only deserve praise and you deserve nothing. So if you're waiting to get validation, if you're waiting to get respect from a narcissist, you could be waiting a long time. Because narcissists feel as though they're the only ones who deserve respect. They are the king of kings, the queen of queens. They are the ones, they're the gods of the gods. They deserve, you don't, who deemed them. So it's spiritual because when you're dealing with a mental abuser, their agenda is to keep you as low as they can. Keep you as low to the ground as they can. Keep you so low to the ground that, they can get you to the point where they don't even have to physically touch you. They can spiritually afflict you to the point where you physically afflict yourself through circumstance. And through that pain of physical, you experience even more pain because of their spiritual affliction. And, it's not even without touch. So I believe that these people are energy vampires. Because like I've said before, and I continue to say it again, that I believe that energy vampires are people who exchange pain energy. It's not regular energy. You know how you give somebody love, okay? You're going to expect love, okay? You give love, you expect love. I give you sex, I want sex. I give you kiss, I want kiss. I mean, it's an exchange of positivity. But when you're dealing with a narcissist, they exchange, their negative affliction for your positive affliction. And then they get more than you get. And then you get what they give, which ain't shit. And that's the exchange. Your pain energy for their happiness. So your low spirit, your lack of energy to fight, generally, because of the result of their lacking in exchange for respect, it's a battle, a loss of motivation and interest in even normal activity. And as a result, you put your dreams on the back burner because you're so spiritually depleted. Why? Because over time of constantly being put down, you lose hope, interest, and natural abilities. It's like a gang of people. It's like 2 against 1, a group. When you're dealing with a narcissistic personality, you're dealing with a person who deals with this overinflated ego. And it's not matching up to reality. And you know what? It's the society that we live in today, 2018, it supports that personality. And you got to know that mental abusers, they work on imbalance, where they use power of imbalance and abusive of relationships. That includes bullying, gaslighting, things that can cause serious long-term effects. These are afflictions that mental abusers do. That unfortunately, this is a serious thing. This is a serious thing because it causes depression and profound sadness. And then you may find yourself in a situation where you're weak and you're not on the up and up. Spiritually, you're not. Financially, you're popping it, okay? And dropping it on stage, on that ass. Sexy as all outdoors. You got everything else going for you, but spiritually, you're just hurt. You're in pain because of this mental abuser that you came across that caused you to now frequently cry. You're experiencing anxiety, low self-esteem, and, you're finding yourself in a situation where you're not being respected. Because this mental abuser, over time, was the charming prince or princess that she was in the beginning. Over time, has conditioned you and has gotten you to the point where they're now screaming and yelling at you. Embarrassing you in public. Okay, preventing you from seeing and talking with your friends and your family. These people are mentally good at what they, they're good at what they do because, sometimes they can condition you to believe, why would you talk? Why would you talk to your family? Come on, man. I'm your family. You want to talk to your family? I'm your family. These people will actually condition you to believe that they're your all in all, baby. They're your all in all. And there's nobody else who's going to love you like they do. And then you find yourself cutting off your family, your friends, and everybody for them. And they're not cutting nobody off for you. And that's how they isolate you. And they'll tell you over time through the mental abuse that nobody's ever going to want you. You look disgusting. You know, they'll try to twist things around where, you know, things that are clearly their fault, they'll try to make it seem like it's your fault. When you know that it's really their fault and they should have been in their fucking game, and then we wouldn't be here right now. And then they'll try to fucking say that you're crazy and they don't know what's up with you. And they'll try to make you feel like you're never really like good enough. You don't look good enough. There's something about you that's not really that fly. And then you're crazy. And they'll try to do that because, you know, as a result, over time, if they make you believe that scenario, over time, you will start to isolate yourself from socializing like they do. And whenever they have plans to go out and they come up with things of why, you know, you needed to be distracted and they had to do what they had to do and you had to beg for their company in order for them to attend to you because they wanted you to isolate yourself from your family through social time. Because right now we're dealing with Thanksgiving. This is social functioning. Narcissistic people do not want you to socialize. Okay, and when they're invited, you're not invited. Because they're too good to be seen with you. So, you know, you may find that narcissistic people, they can be social abusers. If you're dealing with a social abuser online, know that they'll use online communities and they'll try to control you by intimidating you, humiliating you, and blaming you for basic things. And they'll even start to turn around and stalk you and then threaten you to expose something that they know about you. This is what I call social abuse, which I'm not going to go into it right now. Hopefully I'll go into it maybe sometime, maybe not. But, you know, mental abuse is a deep abuse, and it deals with rejection. It deals with, you know, the abuser like totally dominating you, totally belittling you and criticizing you to the point where it's like it almost feels physical, but it's not. But it's so much spiritual afflictions that it's like you feel like it's about to get physical. And then either they want you to physically afflict yourself, or they make you feel like there's physical afflictions that will come out of this because they blame you for their problems. You know, whatever is going on wrong in their life, it's all your fault. And they use you as the guilt. And they, you know, try to make it seem like you owe them for things that they've done for you, which is nothing compared to what you've done. So I just wanted to go ahead and cover this. Hopefully, you know, I don't know, you know, I just want to see how this goes and see if anybody has dealt with this kind of abuse, because I know this, you know, when you're dealing with this kind of level of narcissism and they're at the point where they're constantly like mentally abusing you and calling you like bitches, sluts, and whores, and things that you're doing that you're, you know, they label you big time. They fucking labeled the fuck out of you. And they want like almost you to fight them out of their labeling. And it's like, it's a battle of disrespect. And these people really go all out to the point where it is very abusive. And it's like not physical, but it's spiritual to the point where you feel like it's almost physical. And if they just don't stop, it's going to be another chapter. And nobody, you know, it's not worth it. And I just want you to know, if you're going through this spiritual affliction, know that it's not you. Okay, know that it's not you. Know that these narcissistic people, they have a problem. And it's a serious problem. And if you like follow them, it's not just with you. It's with a whole group of people. So it's a problem that needs to be fixed. And if you don't like really recognize that these people are about power and control, and they're abusive and they use certain tactics in order to exert power and control over thee, you can become a victim from their spiritual afflictions, which is an emotional wound, which is very damaging, not only for the current circumstance, but for like future. And it's just a scary thing. It's just very scary. And I take this very seriously. You know, I take this kind of abuse very seriously. Okay, this is not a joke. But anyway, thank you for listening, and thank you guys. Have a happy holiday, and I will be live on my other channel, guys. Come and check me out. Okay, later.